Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to an episode of my F1 22 My Team Career Mode. This is episode number 29 today for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix in Season 2. If you guys did miss the previous one at the Monaco Grand Prix, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one, because that was a very action-packed Monaco compared to the one we had in Season 1. We had 3 safety cars, 4 DNFs, 3 disqualifications in that race, so really not one to pass up. Really a lot of action going on in Principality, and we may have more action to come today here around Baku, as it always is on the F1 game. But we come away from that with George Russell winning his first race of the season, climbs up into 3rd place in the championship, and all of a sudden, you know, Russell looks back into this with Hamilton. You know, he's not that far off Hamilton now, because ever since those 3 wins in a row, Hamilton's had 2 non-points finishes, and with Russell winning a race, with Verstappen being consistently on the podium ever since Hamilton's run of wins ended, Verstappen is looking comfortable in the championship right now, and Russell doesn't look too far off joining Hamilton to be the 2 chasing silver arrows. So interesting times. For us, we have our front downforce upgrade that comes in. The rear downforce upgrade, though, has failed, so we have to repurchase that. So that'll be a bit of a stumble and a trip in terms of our R&D upgrading. So we have to purchase the rear downforce upgrade for half the price that we purchased it for in the first place. So that's a little bit of wasted R&D, but to be fair, we are in a pretty damn good position right now in terms of the pecking order. So, and we've also got the R&D to spend. We've got nearly 2,500, so it actually won't make much of a dent actually in terms of rebuying that. So we can actually look into maybe buying some other upgrades on the chassis side of things. 1,100 for a minor weight redistribution upgrade, and then we've still got a couple of R&D points to purchase a fuel upgrade, which is heavily discounted, 400 for fuel efficiency. So we actually end up buying 2 new upgrades and rebuying the rear downforce upgrade. So actually quite a bit of spending to kick off this episode ahead of Azerbaijan. But with that front upgrade on the downforce alone, minusing the rear and minusing this chassis and fuel upgrade we just purchased, we are already apparently the best car on the grid now. For the first time in this series, we are on the top of that R&D chart, just ahead of Red Bull. They have also made some upgrades into Baku, so both of us pull away a little bit from McLaren. That just makes some minor gains. You can also see some huge strides for Alfa Romeo and AlphaTauri and Williams, and they leave Haas in the dust. Aston Martin as well included in that, actually. So Haas plateauing, and they've gone from, well, Sainz was challenging for a top 4, even a podium at the very start of the season at Jeddah. Haas now are at the bottom of the R&D chart, and you've got Aston, Williams, AlphaTauri and Alfa Romeo trying to make a march and, pull a fast one and try and pull up towards Alpine, who internally as well are making upgrades to bunch up to Mercedes and Ferrari. So in a race or two's time, we could have a really exciting grid. We could have ourselves up there with Red Bull. Maybe then it's a tight-knit fight between Mercedes, Ferrari, McLaren, Alpine, AlphaTauri, Williams. It's quite amazing how aggressively the AI upgrading this season is really good to see. At the same time, though, we've been upgrading really well, even though we've got reduced R&D. I think because obviously we bought the driver boost, that boosts our R&D personally. We bought the resource point generation HQ facilities. I think those are help negate the reduced R&D career mode settings quite a lot. So actually very, in hindsight now, a very good purchase for us to make those early on in Season 1 at the start of Season 2, because they're really paying out to actually keep our R&D pace at a good level versus the AI. But remember how much of a jump McLaren made last episode. That could easily happen again with them, or Red Bull, or Ferrari, Merc, anyone. They could make a huge leap and purchase an ultimate upgrade. So, for now, it's looking great, but we need to make the most of it at the moment, because you just never know what's going to happen in these next few races in terms of that R&D arms race. But right now, here we are out in Baku, apparently with the best car on the grid for the first time in F1 22 My Team Career Mode. It certainly doesn't feel like it. I mean, you're about to see we cross the line, and this is going to be a very decent time. We do go top of the session, so the pace is there, but I'm going to tell you guys, this car felt so bad around Baku. I didn't mention this at Monaco as well, but it also felt pretty bad around Monaco. So the patch came in obviously before the Imola Grand Prix episode. Around Imola, the car felt fine. I actually liked the new handling. I thought, okay, this is a nice step up. The rear end's not as loose. Mid-corner, it seems a bit weird, but I'm dealing with it all right around Imola. But I guess that was just because maybe Imola, I don't know, it's a smoother circuit, or the way the car makes contact with the road or whatever. I don't know. But around Monaco, I felt like the force feedback in the middle of my steering wheel was just so over-dramatically, rough. And basically just gave me a kind of false feeling of where the car was on the road and sitting and the weight transfer. And then around Baku, it felt so stiff, like I was driving through jelly. And so even though the lap time was there, and I did pretty well in Q1, in Q2, it was a bit of a slow first lap. The second lap was a bit better. As we gain a bit more time on this entry. It was the entry and exit I was finding big issues with this handling around Baku. Like, I just had no confidence under braking. And then on the exit, or mid-corner rather, it felt like I couldn't rotate the car as well as I could maybe pre the patch. But even though the lap time was there, it just felt so odd. So, yeah, very peculiar. We get a really good tow of Carlos Sainz, and this will get us into the top 10 shootout. But also, what was also weird was in this qualifying session, we all start to get slower and slower. Like, my lap time there was slower, 4/10 slower than what I did in Q1. And everyone else's lap times were not as quick, it seemed like, in Q1. And it looked like the track was falling away from us a little bit as maybe the sun went down, maybe the track temps went a bit cooler. And Albon got a bit quicker then, for example, as he's up in P2 there. But, showing that the car clearly that has some pace there to be right up there, because at least one of us was in the top 2 in both those sessions. But now this is the real test in the top 10 shootout. Where are we going to place? The sun is very much down, and we're getting golden hour here around Azerbaijan. What is this going to be for the first lap time? P10, really bad first lap. Second lap is the first sector is like pretty much the same first sector I did. We do gain about 3/10 though on the exit of that one corner alone, because I didn't hop over the curb as much. Through the castle section, a bit more aggressive with the turn in and turn out. But this was the big thing I was having with this handling model around Baku. For whatever reason, I just didn't have enough confidence to turn in, and I almost had to overturn the car on my own steering wheel to turn the car as much as I thought it would turn. And in the end of it, it's P8, P5 for Albon, and I'm left with the same feeling we had at Monaco, that we should be higher, but we're P5 and P8 in the best car on the grid. It's a Red Bull lockout. Verstappen ahead of Perez. The two McLarens looking strong, P3 and 4. So it looks like McLaren are the closest team to Red Bull right now. Mercedes on the back foot with Russell down in P9. Hamilton drags the Mercedes up to P6. Ferrari, at least in the hands of Leclerc, does all right, but we'll see how the race goes for him in P7. Magnussen continues Williams' good fortunes and climb up the order for another top 10 shootout appearance by Williams, but this time it's from Magnussen, not Latifi. But I came away from that qualifying very... I don't know how to feel. I thought everything was fine at Imola, but Monaco and here at Baku, the handling just feels really weird with the My Team car, and I can't quite put my finger on it, but just something doesn't feel right. It doesn't really feel like an F1 car. It doesn't really feel like it doesn't feel like at all like the F1 car we had pre-patch, at least. Yeah, very, very odd. Very, very odd. So here we go then to Sunday. I don't even know how this race is going to go now.
A warm welcome to you from Azadlik Square, heart of Baku, and home, of course, of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. With high speeds, tight corners, and few runoff zones, many are expecting a safety car here today. So our drivers will have to stay very much on their toes and hopefully out of the barriers. Baku City Circuit then, it's an unpredictable 3.7-mile track around the streets of the Azerbaijan capital. 20 turns for our drivers to navigate today, including the infamous Turn 8, one of the tightest and most challenging corners of the season. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. World champion Max Verstappen starts from pole position, edging out Sergio Perez, who lines up P2. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Ricciardo, Norris, Alex Albon and Hamilton, Leclerc, the owner driver, Russell and Kevin Magnussen, Joe, Gasly, Carlos Sainz and Ocon, Latifi, Bottas, Mick Schumacher and Oscar Piastri, Drugovich, Stroll, Tsunoda and Sebastian Vettel starts from the back of the grid. It's almost time for those 5 red lights to go out then. Let's see who can prevail today. Anthony Davidson is here once again for today's Grand Prix. Let's have a chat about McLaren. What do you make of their performance so far this season?
Well, the atmosphere within that team seems very positive at the moment. Everyone seems like they're in great spirits and having a lot of fun doing what they do, and that's definitely contributed to the performances we've seen.
I'm really hoping our race pace can be a little bit better and we can try and jump ourselves up the order, because again, I'm left thinking that myself and Albon should be higher. I think there was time on the table because my Q1 lap time would have got me pole. So yes, the track fell away and felt colder, but there's something about this car, man. Like even now going to the grid, the snap of oversteer, like at Imola, I thought, okay, the patch has made the rear end easier to work with. But coming to Baku, all of a sudden my rear end seemed a bit twitchier around qualifying and twitchier on this formation lap. It's very peculiar. So we're driving a car that is a bit of a diva right now and doesn't know what it wants to feel like. And, well, apparently we've got the best car on the grid. So I'm hoping the diva can set itself straight for just these next couple of laps, 26 to be exact, and can maybe start acting like the best car on the grid. And we can have a very solid race, I hope. As we go to 5 red lights to the Azerbaijan Grand Prix here in Baku. Lights are out and we are underway. It's a slow start for Hamilton and Leclerc. Hamilton on the medium, Leclerc on the hards though, Norris as well. Ricciardo's gone wide at turn 1 and he's lost 2-3 positions. We've now gone down the inside of Norris, who's very slow on the hard compound, and all of a sudden Albon and myself are up into P3 and 4. But look at the top left there, both Red Bull cars, both McLarens on the hard compound. So all 4 of them have gone for the alternative strategy like the Mercedes cars did in Monaco. It's now Red Bull and McLaren's turns, because I think both Mercedes have joined me and Albon on the medium compound tyre. So this is interesting. So these 4 cars, they'll be quicker at the end of the race. So this means me and Albon actually need to get a move on. We need to use these medium tyres to good use and try and actually attack the Red Bulls. And so we might actually be showing that kind of pace that warrants us being the best car on the grid as we overtake Albon, because I can sense that he's not maybe as urgent as I'm wanting to be. We set the fast lap of the Grand Prix on lap 2 onto 3, and I'm already setting my sights on Sergio Perez. We need to effectively use the mediums as best we can to pull the biggest gap we can to these 2 Red Bull cars. That means overtaking both of them, because they're on the hards. They're going to be quicker now at the end of the race on their mediums once they pit onto them. So here we are. We've gone for a very ballsy move on Perez there and are up into P2. And right now, okay, I just talked about the car feeling horrendous, and it still does feel very weird, but the pace is there though, and we're showing it right now as Perez has gone wide. Oh, on the hard tyre, the grip level just not there for the Red Bull, man. They weren't there for Norris and Ricciardo, remember, on lap 1, because Ricciardo did that on the opening lap, nearly went completely off circuit, and now Perez is left fighting the 2 McLarens as Lando trying to get through on the right hand side. Whereas Ricciardo's going to come through on the inside to make a double overtake, maybe try and work side by side with the Mexican. Doesn't quite pull off, and so the Red Bull man will stay put in P4, but now Ricciardo is the McLaren in P5, Lando down to P6. Meanwhile, Hamilton P7, Russell P10. The Mercedes cars are struggling this weekend and not showing any kind of pace that Lewis will want to try and fight back versus Verstappen. Meanwhile, for us, speaking of Verstappen, we're gaining on him, and we're going to fight him for P1. He goes very defensive to the inside. We pull to the racing line, break early though, because Verstappen compromises his own line, goes deep into turn 1. We do the switchback move to the inside, but it's very, very fine for making contact with him, making contact with the curb, and he ultimately stays ahead. He's placing his car perfectly to try and defend this, as he would as the double reigning world champion here from 2021 and 2022, season 1 of this game. But here we are on the outside, still giving him a good fight, trying to get the lead of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. In the same place we overtook Perez, we will overtake Verstappen on the inside with a bit of help of the elbows coming out on the inside there. And now Albon is actually right up his gearbox and bunched up to us. So Albon, does he have a chance of maybe overtaking him? Ideally, he needs to. It needs to be a 1-2 for me and Albon as Verstappen tries to overtake me on the outside, but I'm not having any of it. He was never going to overtake me into that corner, but ideally it needs to be a 1-2 for me and Albon, and then we use our mediums to pull away, because all these guys on hards, they're going to have the same opportunity to reel us back in at the end of the race. But at the moment, Verstappen's looking pretty damn fast. It looks like that OP AI straight line speed coming into clutch for him. Verstappen sends one down the inside, and he's cut the corner. He's hit the wall. He's broken a bit of his front wing, and now Alexander Albon is side by side with him to get into the lead of this Grand Prix, maybe. No, Verstappen comes back at him. They're side by side. They're nearly going to be side by side through this section. Albon thinks better of it, but the Red Bull is now limping. His front wing is broken. Verstappen with a kamikaze dive bomb on me. I don't know what he was thinking. He was never going to make the corner, and so there he is. He goes into the pits for an early pit stop for damage to his front wing, and now I'm jockeying Albon for position for P1. We were in P1 anyway, but because of Verstappen's dive bomb, that made me back out of it, and Albon actually nipped down the inside and was able to overtake me whilst I took avoiding action, and now he's just re-overtaken me there as we battle through the first 2 turns. But the thing is, I can't battle Albon too much. We can't afford to lose time to Perez, Ricciardo, Norris behind, so we need to be careful. But this is a replay of Verstappen then, and he just went for it, such a late lunge, and it was so like just over the curb, skipped over it, hit the wall, and then there comes Albon, who's already overtaken me because I took so much avoiding action on the Red Bull that he just slipped through, and then those two are side by side, and Albon obviously just waited, knowing that Verstappen had to make a pit stop. Here we are then, lap 7 on to 8. We've got DRS, and we're going to go for an overtake, but I'm going to try and not be too much of a nuisance and lose us time. So we actually are patient on purpose, because I know there's going to be a second bite of DRS now, so I'd rather overtake him now rather than overtake him on the main straight, because then it just means we're going to fight too much on this straight then. So here we are, we go on the left hand side, DRS open for the second time, and we'll get the overtake hopefully booked in just about. And whilst we're doing that, we have actually gained time on Perez, 2.3, 2.5 the gap, so we've grown the gap by about 3 tenths just about. Albon on lap 9 will come back at me at that same straight, so he's done exactly what I did, and he overtakes me on the left-hand side. He's stuck behind me on the main straight, but this is working right now. We're battling, we're going back and forth, but we're being respectful, because both of us know we need to ultimately stay ahead by about 2 seconds to Perez, and we're doing that. Lap 12 now, a bit longer than our pit stop window opened up, because actually my engineer told me to come in a lap earlier. Albon comes in now. I'll go on a lap longer, because I reckon that the hard tyres are going to be so slow that actually going 1 or 2 laps longer on the mediums will be the better way to go about this race. So we go on for 1 more lap. Albon's already been in. Perez, Ricciardo, Norris, Leclerc, all of them on hard tyres. They'll continue on for a lot longer. So that we're not going to meet them in this race until a little bit down the line. Maybe, lap, I'd say 16 to 17, maybe. I mean, they actually could be pitting on the next lap, because to be honest, we've gone 14 laps on mediums. So we're only actually going, we're going 18 laps on hards. So really, those guys will only be pitting probably in about 4 laps time. So it doesn't really make a massive difference. But what will make a difference is here we are then, coming out side by side with Albon there. Ooh, it's very, very close. We nearly put Albon in the wall as we try and slow down the car whilst still staying side by side with him. So the overcut did work out for us, because we ended up side by side with him on the exit rather than right behind him. And now we go for the move on the outside. Albon just clips the wall a tiny bit, I think, with his rear left tyre as he comes back at us then, side by side. This is the point where we don't need to fight again too much, because we need to make sure that we stay ahead as Albon attacks me, but Ocon is out this race and brings out this safety car. Albon, though, was about to make a dive bomb down the inside like Verstappen did. I just know it. But the safety car saved us. And it's because of this, Ocon crashes into the Baku Castle section, very much like Leclerc those years ago in qualifying. Very easy to do for any driver. And so the safety car comes out, and it's screwed us over. This safety car has screwed us over because we've come out behind Leclerc, behind Ricciardo, behind Perez. The only man we've actually stayed ahead of is Lando Norris, and that's because he's behind Hamilton now as well, so he lost out anyway to people. So the safety car has given a free pit stop to Perez, Ricciardo and Leclerc. So all of a sudden it's gone from me and Albon 1-2 to me and Albon in P4 and 5, and we've got 3 cars to overtake, or try and overtake. The problem is they're all on the medium tyre. But we're just going to have to make the most of the situation and try and catch people napping if we can, as Leclerc is slow off the restart. We go down the inside of turn 1, we squeeze the Ferrari man out, and that helps our teammate Albon, who climbs up into P4. So once again, myself and Albon are on 3 and 4, chasing after the top 2, but it's a Red Bull and McLaren at the sharp end this time, because, well, Verstappen made that early pit stop and is down the order, doing a 2-stop right now, because he's on mediums, but he had to go to a set of softs before, so I don't know if he's going to have to pit again or what, or if these will go to the end. They probably will do, but he's down in P9, having effectively made 2 pit stops in this race. Compared to everyone's 1, and he's attacking Norris right now, but he's finding some difficulty getting past the McLaren for more than P9. Then ahead, Russell, Hamilton, the 2 Mercedes cars struggling for any kind of pace, not making any kind of inroads on the Ferrari in P5 there. Albon and myself in tandem trying to chase after these 2, Ricciardo and Perez, but it looks like it's more likely for Ricciardo to maybe try and pressurize Perez than I will to Ricciardo, because Albon is actually catching up to me. And in this last sector, we're a bit wide there with some understeer, and we've not got too much ERS to play with. We're deploying a lot of ERS on this twisty section just before the main straight, and we'll be left with just enough ERS to play around with maybe on the second bite of the cherry for DRS, but on this first one, I can't afford to deploy more ERS right now, so Albon flies past me with DRS. I've got enough ERS to play around with though, so we're going to just wait through turns 1, just try and keep it as tight as we can. Bit of oversteer there. Leclerc always lurking in the background on those medium tyres, and you can very much tell the difference between the mediums and hards, because Ricciardo and Perez have walked away by about 4 or 5 seconds here. But here we are then, coming back at Albon, using that extra ERS we saved up, the DRS as well, the second DRS zone to re-overtake him. But the problem is now that we've used that much ERS to re-overtake him, you can see my problem now, because we come on to the next lap 21, and I'm on single digits of ERS now, and we're in the same position we were last time out. I'm a sitting duck. He's going to have DRS. Albon will fly by. The difference is, though, now I don't have as much ERS to use to re-overtake him. I will have the DRS, of course, again, but that ERS was very crucial just to give us that little oomph to try and catch up to him, because remember, the AI still have that overpowered straight line speed, and we needed that ERS to catch up to him. So that may be the job done for Albon. I'm going to have to try and save some battery. I can't re-overtake him on this lap. We've got 4 laps to go. If I can somehow scramble together enough ERS by not using it too much, we can maybe attack him later, but that's a big if. And now we're 1.7 seconds behind him on lap 23, but it won't matter, because a second safety car has come out, and I don't actually know why exactly, because I looked through the race director. I don't know, actually, someone must have broken their front wing, and there's maybe some debris somewhere, but I've missed it on the replay camera, so apologies. But the second safety car has come out, so that might give me half a chance to re-overtake Albon. Here we go then, lap 24. This also gives us half a chance of maybe Albon attacking Ricciardo and Perez, because we've only got 2 laps to go now in the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Perez leads the way from Ricciardo, Albon, myself, Leclerc, Hamilton, Norris, Russell, Verstappen in P9, Guan Yu Zhou and Piastri battling for P10 and P9 as we lock up, and Piastri down the inside of the Mercedes car, trying to get George Russell as the Ferrari man, and Verstappen is pushed down to P10 because of that. Verstappen's only got 1 championship point now all of a sudden in this race, so things go from bad to worse for him as he's been overtaken on the second last lap, as Schumacher and Guan Yu Zhou are squabbling away for the wooden spoon of P11 as the Haas gets down the inside with Guan Yu Zhou able to pull through. But yeah, Verstappen down in P10 with 1 championship point, Hamilton P6. So even though Hamilton's not as high as he'd want to, he's still going to gain a decent amount of points in the championship. But this is the fight we're looking at. Perez versus Ricciardo as we go on to the last lap of the Grand Prix. Ricciardo looks bloody close to Perez. This might be a last lap overtake, you know, by Daniel Ricciardo. Just like Miami, they may be scrapping. Ricciardo might be trying to scrap for P1. And here comes Alexander Albon. What am I watching? Perez and Ricciardo make contact. Albon goes round the outside for the double overtake. It was 3 wide into turn 1. And Albon now is round the outside as Sergio Perez. Albon, he is into the lead of this Grand Prix. Perez comes back at him. We're now closing up to Ricciardo. It looks like these guys' medium tyres are going off the cliff, it would seem. And we go round the outside of Rick Bobby and we close up to Perez. Albon is into the lead and is pulling away from Perez. And Perez looks slow. He looks vulnerable. We go round the outside and we've got the grip. It looks like the medium tyres for these guys have worn out a bit too much and our hard tyres have finally rubbered up a little bit in this race. And we go down the inside just before the castle section. And we're into bloody P2. It's a 1-2 for our team. In a blink of an eye. 1 lap on the last lap of the Grand Prix. As we went on to it, Albon got the double slipstream and made it 3 wide into turn 1. Held his own, held his nerve. Then on Perez on corner 2. And overtook both of them for P1. So here we are then through the last couple of corners. I can't quite believe what I'm saying here because just a lap ago things were very, very different. But here comes through Alexander Albon in our car to come through to win the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. And it's not just going to be a win, it's going to be the team's first win and the team's first 1-2 ever on F1 22 My Team Career Mode. What have we just done? That was the biggest smash and grab robbery of a race I've ever seen. On to the last lap, we were 3-4, and ending it, we're 1-2. How about that?
Here we are then, it's victory in Azerbaijan. Great work for the whole team here at the track and back at the factory as well. Some pretty handy driving for good measure. Anthony Davidson, a resounding victory today. What set them apart from the rest?
Well, they certainly stood out as a driver with tons of confidence on the track. I think their ability to keep their cool, even during some of the more hectic parts of the race, meant they were able to capitalise on the mistakes of other drivers, giving them the opportunity to make their way to the top spot with ease.
Faces on our top 3 look so incredibly happy as they make their way up to the podium. A much-deserved victory and a brilliant performance from them all.
Well, our AI teammate in Season 1 was the one who got the team's first ever podium. So, in traditions, our AI teammate, Alexander Albon, is the first one to get the team's very first win. A testament to how good the AI teammates are on this year's game. Fair play to Albon because he overtook me fair and square before that safety car period and I had no answer. Then the safety car came out. I had no answer. I thought he had no answer. We were sitting in P3 and 4 on the last lap, and then all of a sudden, Albon just kicked into high gear, maybe saved some ERS tactically for the end of that race, and he just went for it. He sent it to make it 3 wide into turn 1. Perez and Ricciardo made contact, and he got the bloody win of the race. That's his first ever career win in Formula 1. Albono, take a bow. Wow, what an insane race. A 1-2 for our team as well. That is absolutely biblical. Nothing else. Wow, wow, oh wow. Hamilton does gain a decent amount of points on Verstappen as well in the standings. We are in P3. We re-overtake Russell in the championship standings. And Albon closes up a little bit there after some quiet races for him. It must be said, ever since those kind of back-to-back podiums. So that's a good stuff for him. And then as a team, we're only 15 points off Mercedes and 8 points off Red Bull in the Constructors. So things are heating up, and I've been denying it all this time. But do we have to start accepting that, you know, depending on how the AI teams upgrade now going forwards, Are we actually maybe creeping into this title battle slowly but surely? I mean, we're the best car on the grid and we just got a 1-2. I mean, we need to work on the qualifying a little bit, but wow, absolutely insane. I'm lost for words at that Azerbaijan. I can't believe we went from 3-4 on the second last lap to 1-2 by the end of it. Like, that one last lap changed everything. That is amazing, unreal stuff. Amazing, amazing scenes. Guys, if you have enjoyed it, hit the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.